Oh, where are we? There we are. All right.
Hey. Welcome to Tech Translated. My name is Auren. I'm the on-site and one-on-one training technician here at CompuMatter. We also do a lot of other things here, so if you're curious, just feel free to ask. But the purpose of today's live video is to teach more people and make things more understandable for the average user.
I'm Douglas, the manager down here, and I've been doing this for about 20 years. If you have any questions or you want us to talk about a certain problem in technology, just go ahead and leave a comment in YouTube or in Facebook. We're in both places, and we'll do our best to help you out and guide you through the process.
And I am Jay. I'm the owner of, or founder or creator of CompuMatter, and been at this for 4 decades, and been in this. CompuMatter has been a CompuMatter has been a bricks and mortar store for about 20 years, and I've been at it since the days of DOS. And like Auren and Douglas, the goal is for us to break this down to something a 10-year-old would understand. And the subjects are many. You're welcome to chime in at any time and suggest a subject of your own, and we'll go with that as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I figured we'd start off just going back and touching base on notifications we talked about in the last podcast. And because the many different programs that can be giving you notifications, it can be complicated to know where they're coming from. Sometimes you want notifications to be on so you can be made aware of certain things in other apps or in your calendar, but sometimes they're an annoyance and they come from fraud, programs and malware type stuff. So I just wanted to touch base specifically on notifications from calendars, because a lot of people, especially on the Mac side, don't know where the notifications are coming from that are saying, you have a virus and deal with this immediately. And those are the types of things that lead you down the scam route. So just try to make sure to check your calendar program and that could be on any of the operating systems, but on the Mac side specifically, I see a lot of notifications weaseling their way into the calendar and then popping up every day telling you that you have a virus. So make sure to check the calendar for those notifications.
Right. Yeah, notifications, it's like alarms. You get an alarm to do something, that's great, and then you want to have an alarm for this, an alarm for that, an alarm for this, and next thing you know, you're bombarded with alarms, and some of them are priorities, and some of them aren't, and eventually you find yourself just shutting them off and shutting them off and shutting them off because you just can't deal with them all. And the same principle is at play with notifications. Everybody wants a piece of your your bandwidth, right? Yeah. Your own mental bandwidth. It's validation. It might actually help you, but it validates them in some kind of way. And you've got to be decisive in whittling down what you're being notified about, so the things you do get, you actually do pay attention to
or care about.
Yeah.
And this also happens on the phone. I'll see a lot of people on their phone when they pull down from the top to look at their notifications. It's just a ridiculous amount because every single program is turned on to be able to send them a notification, and their emails are showing up in that same location. So a lot of the times you can go into the settings on the phone and just turn off notifications for stuff you don't care about, just because it is all extra time that takes away from you getting to the information you want on your phone.
I mean, I get pissed off sometimes. I get a notification of something that it's like, I didn't ask for this.
Who cares and who are you?
And what are you doing taking up my bandwidth? And I'll immediately go into notifications, find them, and crush them. Right? Get that notification button, turn it off, and that's the last time I have to hear from them about it again.
And you can find that in the settings gear on iPhones and Android phones. And some people also have a lot of notifications on their tablets or computers too, so it just depends, but usually in the settings gear is where you're going to find a lot of these things.
Yeah, and on the Apple it's the same thing. In the settings, if you type in notification at the top, notification options will show up and you can dictate what is allowed to have your attention.
Right, and then you have the button of the notifications about getting notifications.
Right.
You can turn that off. Does that turn them all off?
You can just blanket turn off all notifications from everything, but there are certain situations, especially with email, some people like to get a notification for their email showing up, but that one's a big one because it
So
And then
those
for
tend to get a
phones,
lot
you
of
don't want to
spam.
turn off text
Speak-
message notifications and
Yeah.
things like that.
Speaking of notifications, I've got 3 different phones I'm using right now, and I'm not sure. This one doesn't seem to have it on there. But this morning, I got a notification from my mother. Now you're thinking that's not a notification, that's a text, right? Let's see if I can bring it up here. Mom, emergency SOS. I'll see if you can. I don't know. I've never tried to do that on the camera before. You probably can't see it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, an emergency notification with a location.
Can you see that right? I'm touching my phone to bring the focus in, but that's not going to work. Anyway.
Yeah, just do one of those.
Do a pin. No, they're not getting any bigger. All right, so this is probably a fail on some level. But I'm in bed this morning. I get an emergency SOS, which is a notification
Yeah,
on their phone, so I can't really control that one.
yeah.
So I'm listed as a contact to notify.
Okay.
My mother's 86 years old, and
It's definitely a
so I'm
notification
immediately
you want
picturing
turned
her.
on.
I've fallen and I can't get up, and and so I reached out to her, and she was talking, but couldn't hear anything I was saying, but she sounded good, but I could tell she couldn't reach the phone. So I called my sister, and my sister called the hospital. She's in rehab hospital right now, and everything was okay. But so you don't really want to turn off all notifications about
specifically
everything.
for family and loved ones and people in situations where they need to be able to reach you.
Yeah.
You definitely
Right.
don't want a blanket sweep.
So they have their place, right? That's a
Absolutely.
classic example.
No, notifications are
And on
important.
the email, I like the email one, especially for the business emails. When somebody messages something, the fact that it shows up on my phone right at the top, I can get straight to responding rather than come into work, open my email, and then see it.
Email notifications would drive me crazy.
Well, if you dictate your spam, which I know is another thing that we're all dealing with, is trying to figure out a way to lower the amount of spam coming in, then the notifications aren't too bad for
Yeah.
email. But you got to create rules. So for people who aren't aware, in your email you can make rules on things that come in, and so you can make rules for spam. Catchy things that they typically say in spam emails, like your package wasn't delivered, or
Your
I
purchase
have a bunch
was
of money I
successful.
need to be able to transfer, and you could help me out
Yeah.
with that. But you can make rules to help whittle down the amount of that garbage that's coming through.
But that's another story.
Well, I think this is a good time to segue over into email. You had some things
Yeah.
you wanted to bring up in email?
So I did want to also discuss, before we leave completely on the notification side of it, is sometimes people even have it where they get a notification for an app on their phone, and they also get an email for that same app telling them about that same thing. So in some cases, some people are getting double notified for everything. So you have to be careful if you don't want notifications from anything and you've already turned off notifications in your settings. You can also turn off email notifications by either unsubscribing directly in your email, or in some apps you can actually go into the app, into your profile and notification settings, and just turn off all
turn off email.
communications in that area.
Right.
So that's another thing
How
people
about-
deal with.
How about those phone messages you get that are text notifications that offer you the ability to report as junk, and yet they still come in on a regular basis, even though you've reported them as junk? You get those?
I mean, not from the same number. Once you report it as junk, they have to send it to a different number.
Excuse me. Yeah, right into the microphone. Yeah, so I find that a regular thing with, I know you guys are using an Android device, I'm using an iPhone, and that's a regular thing. I get, report junk, and you can report it till you're blue in the face and you still get another one from that same phone number. And oftentimes it's because you've overlooked the ability to type in the word stop at the bottom of that email. So a lot of
that
times
text.
they have a stop option in there, and so they're doing it the right way. And because they're doing it the right way, it appears that the iPhone doesn't respect my report junk. In other words, what's up, stupid? Just type in the word stop, and they'll stop coming. And so you've got to look for that as well.
And then the other side is you can block. If it's not something that's important or it's definitely fraudulent, you can block the number, and then that one's a more bulletproof. But you have to enter it into the blocked numbers area on your phone.
Right,
Be careful not to block companies like Apple or Microsoft verification code things too.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen some people run into things where they get locked out of their Outlook email or their Microsoft account, and when they try to recover it, it sends a text message to their phone, or tries to, but they've actually blocked that text message number. So I've run into it a couple times where we felt like we were in a double locked out situation. You actually had to go through the list of blocked numbers and unblock it in order to recover that account.
I've
So-
not seen that one.
Got
but
it.
that
Be
would
careful
an easy
of
way.
overdoing it a little bit, because there can be some situations where not all automated text messages are a bad thing, but if you get a bunch of them saying, you got a UPS package that was not able to be delivered, please click on this link, or your purchase was successful for a $1,000 iPad that you don't recognize, just ignore
Yeah, there's
those or
unfortunately
delete
so
them.
much of that crap out there.
Yeah.
And hello, eBay Ukraine
Hey.
Hub. Welcome back.
How are you doing?
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. What part of the world you in, eBay Ukraine Hub? I know-
Probably,
I know what
probably
some-
Ukraine.
Your title would imply one thing. I was curious if you're actually there.
I don't know what time it would be over there.
Otherwise, email is a big thing. There's lots of issues people can have with email. I'd say the spam is probably one of the highest. So making your rules is going to be really crucial, as well as going through and unsubscribing, as well as blocking anyone that you know is definitely a scam operation, just to limit the amount of that stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, what is unsubscribing?
Unsubscribing is kind of it's just your ability to tell the company that you no longer want to receive those notifications via email. And so most of the emails you'll get down at the bottom somewhere, it'll say unsubscribe. And I've seen Google more recently actually just put an unsubscribe button at the top of the email.
Oh, that's nice.
So Google's starting to incorporate it into their system so that it's not as much something you have to hunt for, which a lot of the times, frankly, it's like a button that says click here.
Oh, it's
Here is the
horrible.
link, and the text is super tiny, and it's the
What,
colors.
light gray and a
the
white
light gray.
background?
They try to make it so that you can't find the unsubscribe button.
Unsubscribe and click this little button.
And then they hide it,
Yeah.
just by making the text really small.
Have
And
you ever seen the unsubscribe button that actually moves back and forth?
What?
No.
Oh, I haven't seen
No, I'm
that.
totally joking.
Someone's gonna do that. Someone's gonna do.
No,
you gotta
actually-
click on it and it moves away from the mouse.
There's something kind of similar though. Have you ever gone to unsubscribe from an email and you click on that little link and it opens up and
Oh,
it
yeah.
says, would you like to resubscribe? And then there's a big blue button that you're supposed to press on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
there is
yeah.
tac-
So it
Yeah.
automatically unsubscribes you when you click the link, but
Right.
then there's a button that you might interpret as the
The default,
unsubscribe
right,
button,
right,
but you
right.
accidentally
Yeah,
resubscribe.
and one of the ones that I don't like is when you click unsubscribe and then they take you to a page.
Oh yeah, page a bunch of choices
A
in the
bunch
menu
of
and
choices,
it's garbage.
and then it tells you to type in your email address in order to take you off of the list.
yeah.
The whole thing feels weird. I mean, they already
just block
have your
those.
email address,
Right.
so there's no danger in typing in your email address
Right.
because they already sent you something.
So that's and by the way, that's
But
a
if-
law.
But if they ask you for any other information, don't do it. So
Right.
there's got to be evidence. There's got to be scams out
Well,
there.
there
that
is,
go
of
off of
course.
that.
It's a mousetrap, but it's actually a law that people who send out bulk email are required to put an unsubscribe link at the bottom of their emails to let you unsubscribe from it and get off the list.
I didn't know it was a law.
That's a law. It was enacted 20 plus years ago. I remember when it came out.
Well, thank God. I don't even know what we do if there was no unsubscribe
So I
button.
thought that would be the end of it. You know, people would click that and that'd be the end of it. But then you get the people that ignore the unsubscribe button. You know, you've clicked it and it goes nowhere, or you click it and it goes to a website, or
Yeah.
you click it and you've taken it off, but you still and they actually still send you emails anyway because, you know, where are the email police, right? Where are the people that are
Yeah.
sitting around saying, "Oh well, we see what they've done," and
Yeah.
follow up on
then-
it,
and then they sell your email off to a bunch of other companies, and then you just get what everybo's dealing with. Is you get
It's like they've
spam.
got to self-police their unsubscribe situation because really there doesn't seem to be anybody who's really policing it. Right,
And
let's take-
hello, Tim Soldier from Kentucky, and
no, Tin Soldier? Is he?
Tin
Oh yeah, he is from
yeah.
Kentucky.
yeah,
Welcome,
is
Tim.
it okay to still use Office 2007 on Windows 10? I'd say if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That's for most software.
Is it working?
And there's also a free LibreOffice, which is a free office software that has a Word Writer document type program and Excel and some other stuff. And that's a free one that might have newer features than the Office 2007.
Yeah, everything's okay as long as it's working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And everything's okay until it's not.
Right.
So.
Then it's not okay anymore. And somebody's going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, and with using most older software, it really just comes down to support. If it's supported and it's compatible, it's fine. If you like using it, that's great.
Okay, so eBay Ukraine Hub, who I asked earlier, where the heck are they, which seemed like an obvious thing. Turns out they're in Boston.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
So
That was a good question there.
I'm from near Boston. I'm from a place called Lowell, Massachusetts. And so maybe you give us a little backstory on why the eBay Ukraine Hub is in Boston. I'm sure there's something interesting to share there.
Otherwise, just covering more things you can do on your email to lower the amount of spam is the rules I had brought up before. If you see something that's commonly in a bunch of your spam, like the title, there's something specifically that they're targeting you for, then you can put that in the rules to move anything that has that wording to the trash. And that one the rule will pick out multiple different companies that use that same angle to try to get, more emails in your mailbox.
But you got to be specific.
Yeah, you got to be really specific with the rules because you don't want to, if you made a rule that was, say, a period, like at the end of a sentence, and move it all to the trash, now all of your emails with a period in it are going to the trash.
Just most of them.
Yeah. And there's a lot of scam artists that have done that in the past, is they make that rule so that you stop getting emails. And then when they log in, they go to the trash because that's where they know everything's coming in, and they can look through your email that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what the advantage is other than you don't get to see your mail and they do. Oh, here's the advantage. When a hacker gets into your email and they're going around changing your passwords to other accounts, the notifications that your passwords are being changed are no longer coming in. So you're not getting made aware that they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
They could even maybe send you an email that doesn't have a period in it that tells you to call the number to fix it, pay us money,
they can dictate what's coming in through your mailbox.
A controller.
And the best way to avoid getting somebody in your email that's not you is multi-factor authentication. Again, we've gone over that one before, is a secondary email address or a phone number to attach for security purposes, and then make sure that in the security info area for whatever account it is, including email, make sure it's your phone number, your address, your name. Those simple things can help keep you protected.
You guys had taught me on one of these podcasts, and I haven't used it since then, but I think it bears mentioning, on people that have Gmail email accounts, which is probably 3/4 of the population, if you preface the email address with something, it automatically keeps track of it. What was that?
Oh, the plus. The plus at the end of it before the @ symbol.
Okay.
Yeah, so you add like a tag of whatever you'd like between your actual, like the beginning part of your email. Say my email was auren@gmail.com. I'd put it between the Auren and the @ symbol. I could type in a plus sign.
Right.
And then if I was signing up for Amazon, I could tag it as Amazon. And then from then on out, any email that I get from Amazon, they're directing it to aurenplusamazon@gmail.com. And it comes to my inbox just fine. But if I start getting emails from other companies addressed to aurenplusamazon@gmail.com, I know who Amazon sold my email to, which is actually kind of useful if you're trying to keep your email less cluttered. If you're signing up to websites or newsletters that you may not fully trust, you can tag them, and if it starts getting really bad and you're getting a ton of spam, you can actually create a filter, as Douglas said.
Yeah, filter or rule.
Or a rule, and completely eliminate anything that's coming through to that email address plus whatever,
the plus whatever it was.
Tag you had there.
So you can use that if you're signing up for subscriptions and you don't know if the company's trustworthy enough to sell off your email address. You can use that to sort of make a little barrier in between you and the endless sea of spam.
Yeah, that's a real effective solution. I don't know. I wonder if other companies besides Gmail have picked up on using that technique. It may be more omnipresent than I realize, because it seems like a natural.
I think Apple has aliases that are like for their iCloud email addresses that you can
Right.
turn on and off depending, and then
Yeah, I don't know if
Proton
it's
Mail is another
Yeah,
one. I think.
Proton Mail has aliases as well.
Well, you can test it, throw a plus sign in there, see if it works.
All right.
Okay, you eBay.
Born and raised in Ukraine and help
Oh.
Ukrainians sell on eBay. All right.
Okay, so there's the eBay. There's the Ukraine connection. I was hoping there was one, and there it is. He was
And
born
Lowell,
in
he says
Ukraine.
Lowell is a
Awesome.
nice city, or used to be.
Lowell is a nice city. Well, you must be a lot older than I am because I don't ever remember that. No, I'm like, Lowell was an immigrant town, yeah, and back in the day, it was a focal point for immigrants around the world that came through New York and Ellis Island. A lot of them channeled up into Lowell and created a textile industry where they made materials and cloths and big mills for many things. It was right on the river. Lowell is now a national park. Because of the immigrant status and the history on that. And so I go back to my hometown, and they've got rangers and boat cruises through the canal system that was dug out back in the day to move textiles from one factory to another to another. So, but to this day, it continues to be. It's overrun by immigrants in all kinds of flavors. I'm not going to highlight any specific group. But there's a drug culture there, there's a crime culture there, and there's always been some of that. But it was certainly a lot of character and an interesting place to grow up. Yeah. But we won't get too far off track. Enough about Lowell.
How do you block emails?
Blocking emails can be different for each of the different programs, but most of the time you can go into settings, and they usually have a search bar. You can type in block, and then you can find out where that list is for your specific email from there.
Can I say one more thing about Lowell?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
There's a movie out there called The Boxer. I don't know if you ever heard of it. There were a couple of famous people in it, a lot of famous people in it. You ever heard of it? The
I've
Boxer?
heard of it. Yeah.
I can't think of the guy's name, damn it. The famous person, I think he played Batman at one point in time. But anyway, that was filmed in Lowell.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Mickey Rourke, I believe, was the star guy, and Dick Eklund was his, was another boxer back in the day. And I used to box as a teenager, as a younger teenager, and was I knew Dickie Eklund, and I knew some of these people I've seen train in the same gym, the West End gym in Lowell, where I used to.
Oh, and eBay Ukraine Hub said he's watched it.
Oh, there you go. All right, what was that actor's name? Do you remember? You can Google it. I'm not in a position to do that right now. All right.
All right. So on blocking emails, you can also do that through the filter or through the rules. If you just type in that person's email address and then make the action of that filter or rule to put it in the trash, if it has that person's email address in it, it's effectively blocking them the same way.
I think on some phones too, for blocking a sender, you can open up the email. I think you have to do that first in most of the email programs. Without clicking on the links or anything inside, you just look up on the top and see the from area. If you tap on the from email, you can tap on it again to get more options and block the sender.
Yeah, a lot
I've seen
of
that.
the times you can block them right there in the email by right-clicking on their name.
Yeah.
Chris Bale?
Chris Bale.
I was hoping for somebody more popular than him.
I have no idea who that is.
Not the guy who played. Well, maybe. I think I might be confusing two different boxing movies. No, it's not Chris Bale. It's somebody else I'm looking for. But anyway, thank you for that effort.
And let's see, for emails, filters, and rules, is there anything else we could do to limit the amount of garbage coming into our inboxes?
Delete the whole email.
You could delete the whole email and start writing letters again.
Yeah.
And then you could avoid a lot of the spam. Yeah, he says he played Dickie.
Oh, he paid Dickie Eklund. Okay. So
He has to look it up at this point.
there was another guy. I got this.
It's bothering him.
I got
He's
an
gotta
iPhone.
look it up now.
And this particular iPhone, half of the display doesn't work, so I'm having really challenge trying to research anything on it.
All right, so, I mean, one of the things I did for my email, which I strongly recommend, is at some point, even though we're all attached to our emails once we have them long enough, is make a new email address and put the important companies that you use connected to the new email address so that you can go efficiently check on finances and different other accounts that you have without going through a sea of spam. I
Yeah.
mean, there's eventually a point in time where spam becomes a problem on that account, but with the tips and tricks we've gone over, you can limit the amount of exposure and the amount of your email being sold off to other companies out there.
Yeah.
Can
Takes a lot of work.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like this is no, it's not the wrestler. It's definitely the boxer. There's another guy besides Mark Wahlberg. There's a name people will recognize. Okay, thank you. All right, I've got that out of my system. Nobody's going to leave here and go look up the movie based on Chris Bale, although maybe more people follow him than I realize. But Mark Wahlberg, now they'll take a look. All right. So I'm afraid that these things might get a little too boring.
Yeah, it's easy with
Right.
technology.
Right.
And talking about
Right.
spam.
Can we add, I was thinking maybe ad-libbing something, and I don't even have anything in mind right now. Ad-libbing something where something that relates to technology, maybe a customer that walked in the door, maybe somebody else in your world, that brings kind of a funny little humanity, this is what we deal with, this is what we see, this is what other people experience, so you won't feel so bad. Do you get anything?
Well, I have a really common one of when a customer comes in with an email issue and I ask them what their password is, and they say, I don't have a password. That's a very common one.
For their email.
That's tough.
For their email, for whatever account. Name an account. And you ask them what their password is. I don't have a password. They'll even sometimes have an attitude because they don't want another password. They don't know that they already have one. And so they say, no, for my Google account, I've never had a password for that. And I have to be like, well, I'm sorry to have to inform you that you set one up when you made the account. And then what ends up happening is we have the convenience of password manager and abilities for your computer to save and remember your password. And if you do that for long enough, eventually you don't think there is a password because you never have the prompt pop up. And so people have been using their email for 10 years or so without ever being asked for the password. And so they just assume they don't have one. And it's
Yeah.
a funny circumstance because I'm sitting there like not wanting to tell them that they have a password whether they like it or not. So the way I usually explain it is, well, if you didn't have a password, that means anybody in the world could just log into your email if they knew your email. And then they think about it and go, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I have a password. What is it?
That brings it home.
And then we recover the password together, figure out how that's done. So if you don't think you have a password, if you don't think you have a password for an account, definitely dig in, do some research. You'll find out that there is not very many accounts out there that you don't have a password for.
Right. No, and sometimes a lot of work is just figuring out what your password is, and if you can't find it or find a place to store it safely, changing the password to something you know, and then making sure everything's working again with that. And then make sure you write a date next to the changed password. If you have a password book where you're handwriting stuff,
Oh, that's
I've
a
seen
good
that help
idea.
a lot of people, because if they just have Apple password and then one and then another one and then another one and it's all on the same one and then the next page has another Apple password listing.
Yes,
You're
I've
sitting
seen
there
many
trying all
of
those.
those password books that are a bunch of passwords written down and scratched out.
Yeah.
But there's like 20 places where it says Apple and Gmail, and there's no way to make sense of it after
Right.
30 years
Right.
of updating
It's
passwords
hard.
on the same sheet.
Every time they use the word latest, the latest one. This is the new latest
Right,
one.
right.
The new latest.
So
the newest latest
one.
We recommend the date for sure. That'll make it a lot easier, even if you have multiples of the same password on a page. That narrows it down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
But that is a comical one that I run into a lot.
Yeah.
No, that's a
How
good
about
one.
you? Do you have anything? I know this was impromptu.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I see a big one recently is, well, I guess in general, is getting phone calls from customers that are really concerned and they say, hey, I have a virus, I need you to clean it up immediately, how soon can I come in? And the majority of the time, it's something where if I ask them for more detail, they say, yeah, I got a Trojan and my credit cards are all leaked, and they'll just describe and go on a big story with me about everything they're seeing on their screen, which is all just a bogus scam trying to get them to call the number.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily, they called us first, so I was able to tell them what was actually going on. And then if they wanted to bring it in and have me check it out after I walked them through closing that pop-up, then they were still welcome to do so, because unfortunately we have no way of knowing if you do actually have a virus from something else running in the background too. So
Yeah,
we can't just
and,
say you're
and
good
most
to
of
go.
those pop-ups are scams, but I usually
Yeah.
make sure to tell the customer, if you have any concerns, we can go through a full service and make sure that there's no back doors open and any threats. But I try to avoid telling people it's a scam. You definitely don't have a virus, because there's things they could have clicked on
You
that
don't
could
know.
have brought something into the machine.
Yeah, and just, for both people's sake, you want to make sure they're good to go, and I'm sure they, after seeing that, are probably really stressed out about viruses and what they're clicking on. So for the peace of mind, if you don't know how to go through and navigate running scans and making sure and checking your browser extensions and all those little things, then we're here to help.
And Tin Soldier, I keep a folder on my computer for my passwords because I can't remember them. I'm with you. And is that okay, or can somebody hack my computer and get the passwords? So the answer is definitely yes. One of the things you can do to prevent that a little bit more is depending on what operating system you're in, you can put a password on that folder.
Yeah.
So you can make it so, unfortunately, I'm creating another password for you. And if you can't remember that one, then you're locked out of all your passwords. But you can put a password on a folder or encrypt it in order to protect someone, even if they were able to get that file, from being able to open it and look at all the passwords.
So I don't
Yeah.
really use that feature, but is that Windows 10, Windows 11,
I believe it's
Apple?
I know it's on the Windows side. I'm not sure if Apple has the same thing. I'd have to look into Apple's settings for that. But one of my biggest suggestions is I do something similar, but keep it on a flash drive so that it's not accessible in the computer at all points in time. That was just one more disconnect you could add to it that would make it more secure. You need the passwords, you plug it in, you open your sheet, look at the passwords. When you're done, unplug it, and it's gone.
Maybe make multiples and keep one in a safe.
Yeah,
too.
maybe keep two, because if one of them gets damaged or broken, you don't, again, want to lose any of your passwords.
That brings me up to a saying, which is, and I'd like to thank Daniel over in New Zealand for this one, if you only have one of them, you have none of them. That is the way to look at things when it comes to your computer and your files and folders and any of that kind of stuff.
That goes with your data that's important, just like the passwords. It could be family photos and other documents that you find that you would be amiss without.
It's an important concept to keep in your mind, because if you lose that one of them, that saying will come right back to you. You have none of them because you had one of them.
So right now, if you have a file that you can't even imagine living without, back it up, copy it somewhere immediately. Buy a USB drive. They're not that expensive. We sell them down here if you're in the neighborhood. But having stuff that's important to you in a secondary location is vital. I watch the nightmare of people losing that stuff all the time.
And there may be programs out there to encrypt your folder. I'm sure there are. Probably for Apple and Windows. So seek those out. Programs that will encrypt a specific folder without regard to having to have a specific operating system. You will have to have a password to open that one folder. It can be as simple as ABC123. That's okay if it's encrypted. A bad actor who gets access to your computer, they're not going to know it's something simple. They're just going to know it won't let them open it without a password. They don't have the password. That typically will become the end of the story. So that I would look for a program like that if you're keeping your folders, passwords on your folder.
It is
On your
also
desktop.
possible, though, depending on how somebody gets into your computer. I agree with you, but at the same time, if they download all of your files and then they have this whole folder full of just encrypted files, they can probably run some sort of password crack tool on all of them and then
If they
get in
download it,
eventually.
if they download it, then you want to make sure you're right.
But encryption
depends.
software, I don't think they're getting around encryption.
No, but if they can break through the password somehow, then that undoes the encryption and that kind of defeats the purpose. But another thing I wanted to mention too, in pertinence to the folder, depending on what document type you're using, I'm not sure if you're using Office, but I think it allows you to actually lock the Office file itself, which might be easier than locking the entire folder. I've seen a couple people that have a password sheet that is a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and they have it password locked and encrypted with something moderately complex, and that should help keep it safer. And then if you take that and put it on a USB stick so that you have a backup of it,
Yes, resistance.
more you got, the better. But
It puts more of a barrier between a bad actor and your important data.
Yeah.
So backing up your stuff is super important, and then encrypting passwords or putting passwords on your passwords, which
Yeah.
seems redundant, are ways that you can get away from those types of vulnerabilities.
I want to get off topic just a moment.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we unique in my world, and I've talked about this in another podcast somewhere down the line, but I think it bears mentioning. If you know anybody in your world that has, I mean, last week we talked about the bugs in your computer, or the week before, and then we talked about the person who put their laptop in the oven and melted the bottom of it because it was freezing.
But
right?
it worked.
But it worked. So there's all kinds of interesting little side stories that we run into in this business. I'll never forget the guy that came in this door and said he lost $100,000 on a Bitcoin scam or some kind of scam.
Oh my gosh.
that's
that-
so hard.
That one, I tried to talk the guy into coming down and doing a podcast with us, but he wouldn't. He just couldn't bring himself to do it because there's so much embarrassment, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and then all of a
it's
sudden
hard.
you're making it public when you've lost something on that level. But we've often seen people lose 10 grand or some level that amounts to anything. So before I get into my little story, always pick up the phone and call CompuMatter. Just call us. Ask us for an opinion. We can at least give you a sense of direction. It doesn't cost you anything for us to give you a sense of direction. And then if you want us to be involved at that point to help you through whatever it is, we got to charge you for that. But we're happy to help you avoid an emergency.
Yeah,
and
divert
be a
from
lifeline
these,
if you've got a
these
question.
scam companies. There's so many of them out there.
Yeah.
If somebody's offering to help you by remote logging onto your computer over the phone, even if you called them, at this point it's so hard to dictate who you're talking to.
Right.
Because they can change their numbers to whatever company they want, and then they can lie to you and tell you they're with whatever company. So
Give
it is
badge
always
number.
safer to be able to call a bricks and mortar
Yeah,
place and
if you-
get somebody on the phone you know.
If you've got a mother or a grandfather or a grandmother or father or somebody out there that is elderly, that is the key crossroad for scammers is they are beginning to lose control of their mind in whatever way that may be, but they still have control over their money. Okay, so at some point,
And they have a landline. I've
some-
seen that as a
at-
target as well.
well, that may be, but at some point, those two things start to cross over. And that makes them a prime target, whatever technology they're using, because they believe that person on the other end. So our advice to you is give them CompuMatter's phone number. You can see it in the top right corner of the screen. All these people that are important to you, that you're afraid they've reached that point in their life, give them our phone number and call it a lifeline to call us if they really feel like they're not sure.
I'd say one of my favorite parts about the job nowadays is customers coming in because they had one of these pop-ups but didn't want to call the number because they know we're here. And we've saved so many customers that know we exist already from going down those horrible roads and getting scammed for a bunch of money, because who knows what they do once they're in accounts and they have access to the computer. So I've loved to see that customers were thinking enough to know to come to us first, and then I can help them, guide them through the process, and just feel happy that they have another route that they can go. Otherwise, the people who don't know we're down here, I deal with the nightmare on the other side of them coming in having been scammed, and it's no fun for anybody.
No.
Yeah, it can be heartbreaking.
So let me get back to that little story along the way.
Sure.
If you've got somebody that's losing their eyesight, did I say? I don't think I said
didn't
this
say
was
eyesight.
funny.
You
I didn't
didn't
say
say
this was going to
eyesight.
be funny, did I?
No, I don't
Okay,
think
because that's really not funny. You've got somebody in your world that's poor eyesight. They struggle with their computer. The computer is a portal to the world, and same thing with older people. They get to a point where all of a sudden they can't use their computer the same way without some kind of aid. And what I want to recommend that you do once they get to that, a lot of people go out and get some kind of assisted software, blind assist software, some kind of mechanism, thicker glasses, whatever the case may be. The simplest first move you can make is to get a shitty monitor.
Huh?
Actually, to get a low resolution monitor. So everybody wants
An older
everybody
monitor.
thinks they're getting a high resolution monitor is the best, right?
Yeah.
It's better for your eyesight. You want to 1920 by 1080 was an HD monitor, but then they went to 4,000, 4K, 4,000 pixels across. That's even better, assuming that the movie was shot or the video was shot with 4K, then you get to experience that. And that's great for videos, but it's horrible for text. It tends to make text small. And now Windows and some companies are now artificially making them bigger to try and compensate for that, but nothing will make text in everything they see consistently larger than going to a low resolution monitor. So the dimensions of the monitor are still, 12 inches by 20 inches or whatever that number is, but the pixels are larger. So instead of getting 1920 pixels across, you're only getting 720 pixels across, and it's the functional equivalent of a magnifying glass on the entire screen. So where you might be looking at this like that on a high resolution screen, as soon as you put the bigger monitor on, it is the equivalent of everything they see getting pulled up like that.
Yeah, and aside from getting a low resolution monitor, you can change the monitor on your desktop on the Windows side just by right clicking and going down to display settings. They have a percentage of scaling that can make things bigger for them, and you can also just change the resolution that it's displaying to make everything blow up.
And that's a good idea. But the thing about a 720, if you can still find a 720 pixel monitor, get a big monitor like a 32 inch or bigger that is 720 pixels, because now you've got a big screen and you've got big information, and that combination, here's the thing, that's a native resolution in the case of the monitor. So when you're tweaking it artificially in Windows, it's not going to be as sharp as if the monitor natively supported that 920.
Okay.
There is a difference there. So, and one of the short story that goes with that is my mother's eyesight was getting poorer and poorer and poorer, and we went in these directions and others to improve things. And one day it got so bad that I was on the phone with her for 4 hours. On the phone or working on my own, trying to increase the size of Thunderbird fonts and menus and everything else so that she'd be able to read email, in addition to having a 720 pixel monitor. And I finally got to the point one day where I said, Mom, I've got to know what you can see, like an eye doctor, right?
Yeah.
But I can't, because she's in Texas and I'm in Washington. How do I get to know what she sees?
Yeah.
And then
Working in the blind is a common issue.
But then I realized, wait, if I remote control into her computer and bring up a document and question her about what she sees.
Oh.
So let's try that. So I brought up a Word document. I typed in the word mouse. And it was a normal size font. Can you see that? No. I increased it. Can you tell me what that says?
The font size.
She's struggling. Now I'm hearing her struggle like she was sitting in a doctor's office getting an eye test.
Yeah.
And she said no. So I bumped it up higher. And she'd guess at different things, and she still wasn't getting it right. And finally, I got to the point where the word mouse was 5 letters across the entire width of her screen, right?
Oh, no.
Oh.
And she couldn't tell me what it said. And she was struggling because she knew how big those letters were, and she's guessing at a couple of things, and she got a character in or another character in. And it was only then that I realized she's done. Her ability to use a computer at that moment, it just completely gelled in my brain. I will spend hours and hours with her every day.
Realize, and it won't make it so that she can use it on her own.
And that was the last day if she's ever used a computer. Because I couldn't support her anymore. It was just too much. And
the only other way I could think about getting around that is some sort of text-to-speech or speech-to-text.
And we had gone through that iteration as well, and it was valuable.
And AI is going to make this gap more manageable.
But when it's that bad, you can't even see well enough where you're putting the mouse to get the text.
Right. I'm saying I don't think AI is there yet, but I'm guessing there'll be an AI interface where you can just tell it where you want to go, and it'll type in the stuff and take you to different websites.
But you can't see the website.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you can't see it and you're asking for specifics, you could have it order you stuff off of Amazon. You could have it to send emails for you.
Yeah, well...
you just have to tell it who you want to send to.
I'm hopeful for that world, sure. What the hell?
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
Otherwise, it's difficult to navigate those sort of things, and all the different devices and operating systems typically will have some sort of visual settings that you can go through to make things easier to use if you have eyesight that's fading, or just so that your eyes aren't straining as much.
Lumen? That's an interesting one. Phonetically sound that one out for us.
In text.
And I'm glad.
Glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, maybe a minor member of the Illuminati or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Lumen. That's at the bottom.
By far, the majority of our interactors are from YouTube this morning.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single Facebook person today.
Yep. So what time is it? 2 minutes, 3 minutes
still?
For
those of you that don't know, we run a computer store here in Anacortes, Washington. Have for the past 20 years. We've had Auren working with us for about two and a half years now. And we're going to be opening up the shop here in a moment, going from 11 to 5 or 11 to 4 on Saturday. And we appreciate you tuning in, and I think we're going to go get it started.
Let's give them a look at the showroom like we did the last time. I think that's a nice segue. Hold on a second. Remember how the hell I did that. All right, so we're going to put the camera on the showroom.
And I'll go unlock the door.
All right.
And there's a showroom camera right there. It's not up yet. Hold on, Doug. You're not live yet. Oh. That's what's going on is...
Oh, there it is.
Where is it?
On your left there.
Okay, it's showing up. What's happening is it's showing up here.
There he is.
There we are. I don't even know what camera is online right now, but I think we've got it.
Main camera?
And we'll put us in the center. Nope. Oh! Hold on. Oh, I definitely brought it.
There we go.
No, somehow. It went off to this again. No, man, we're working it. Whoa.
What are we doing here?
We're out of control. Hold on a second. There we are. All right.
Whoa, Douglas just came in
There's
from...
what we're looking for. So that's our showroom. And this is about, maybe 30% of the facility. And you can see some of the computers displayed on the right. Douglas walking back. He's going into the repair technician, one of the technician areas right now. And he's coming back around. And out that front door is Commercial Avenue. And we've been on Commercial Avenue for 20 years. That's the main drag here in Anacortes.
In our beautiful small town of Anacortes.
Yeah. It's too bad we couldn't give them, we need to hook up a couple other cameras and give them some other views of this place.
Teleport them around the shop?
Yeah.
Show them the tech room?
Yeah.
Anyway. Live stream customers coming in? No.
Yeah, thanks very much for watching. We're going to get started with our day, and we will see you on Tuesday.
All right, have a good weekend.
Take care.
Bye-bye.